Alright, so originally my plan for these videos was to discuss every superclass individually, but it became increasingly obvious while writing the script that going for that format would have made things just dramatically more confusing. So, I'm throwing out the assaults today to talk about for another time. Instead, we're going to be talking about a class that I like much more, gunners. I'm probably not going to section out things as brutally as I did with scouts and snipers, as infantry and gunners are much better used in conjunction together, at least with how I play them. It might seem like a departure to bring this up, but it's important to note that while I've been trying to be coy with this up until now, I just absolutely hate Rocketeers, to the point where I've dropped them completely for a second infantry. There are a lot of reasons for this, and I'll try to give you a lightning round as to why. Rocketeers blow up all the loot you're trying to bring home. They're a subpar rifleman and glorified rookie compared to the other classes. Practically useless after they fire all their rockets. I hate rapid reaction. Gunners get access to Shredder even earlier than Rocketeers do. Infantry are probably the best class in the game. In short, infantry are a very flexible class that is very generally applicable, whereas Rocketeers are much more specialized in use and also simultaneously destroy all the loot. There are power spike perks available for just about every class, generally placed about half or all the way down a class's tree. Infantry, on the other hand, get Light 'em Up, a perk that I would argue is one of the best in the entire game, at Specialist. It is so incredibly flexible and amazing. You can shoot twice, or shoot and do any other action. If I could marry a perk, it'd be this one. Then again, In the Zone is a tough contender. Gunners also get an incredibly strong starting perk, Suppression. The same perk shows up later in Infantry's tree, and under normal circumstances I would suggest taking it every single time. However, recently I've been experimenting with a new squad setup that shakes us up quite a bit. Normally, Long War is intended to be played with one of every class in a squad. I have relatively recently tried dropping Rocketeers completely and Engineers almost completely and replacing them with an extra infantry and a gunner. This comp I would describe as XCOM World War I, as your plan of attack is to stick enemies in trench warfare that they cannot win. Your goal in XCOM is already to fight only one pod at a time, and with this comp you're going to basically guarantee that you can deny basically every single available target an opportunity to do anything, while you set up for your next turn by using gunner suppression, extremely high percent infantry shots, and not to mention, the rest of your squad. I run all 4 soldiers with different builds, but it's totally viable to double up on some of them. The first one is probably the most important, Critfantry. Critfantry take Executioner, Aggression, Suppression, Lock and Load, Bring 'em On, and either VPT or Extra Con. They're going to sit in full cover and snipe anything that comes their way, and regardless of if it has cover, they will hit and they will crit anyway. This build is obscenely powerful, and I cannot believe I slept on it for so long. This is entirely optional for your second infantry, but it's an Overwatch build. If you want, you can totally skip this and just run 2 Critfantry. In Overwatch, infantry will take Covering Fire, Opportunist, Suppression, Lock and Load, Sentinel, and either VPT or Extra Con once again. Now, you'll note that I mentioned bringing Suppression in both builds. I lied. When I play XCOM 1, I don't actually do this. If you're building infantry purely on their own without the double gunners, I could definitely recommend grabbing Suppression as it's such an important tool. However, with 2 gunners, I actually take Ranger on both infantry builds instead. The reason for this is twofold. Your infantry want to be shooting as much as possible, and gunners will have all the suppression you need most of the time. It feels like a bit of a waste to suppress on an Overwatch infantry especially, and having the extra damage is really beneficial. On top of that, you can bring a heavier duty pistol in your infantry and treat it as a second rifle when the first one runs out of ammo. Uh-oh. With gunners, unlike infantry, I would insist on bringing one of each build. I bring a heat gunner with a saw and a bullet wizard with an LMG on every single operation. Gunners have this additional third build centered on Overwatch, but it kind of really sucks, and I hate it so much I'm not even going to bother to cover it in detail. Don't use this build, it blows. Gunners are tied for the worst aim climb in the entire game, and they will miss their Overwatches constantly, and you want to suppress anyway! Where was I? Oh, right, the gunner builds that don't make me irrationally angry. Let's start with the least mobile unit in your entire squad, the Bullet Wizard. They take Hollow Targeting, Shredder Ammo, Will to Survive, Double Tap, and most importantly, Danger Zone and Mayhem. They can work with a saw, but I highly recommend bringing an LMG on them because of one simple reason. Bullet Wizards want to suppress a lot. And when you suppress an alien from outside of vision, their AI completely borks most of the time. Almost all of them will just either hunker or overwatch, and if the latter, you can just suppress them again next turn. This lets you completely shut down a high priority target which might otherwise pose a significant threat, like big mechanical units or thin men.
Enemy spotted.
I am not a fan of that.
They're repositioning on us!
The specific combo of holo targeting, shredder, danger zone, and mayhem means that when you suppress an enemy, it and all enemies close to it receive holo targeting, are shredded, take 2 damage, and are now suppressed. And if the gunner is out of vision, they won't do anything. This gunner works best in positions that have wide line of sight and are generally played slightly behind your team in the backline. This is to ensure that they have the highest possible chance of having targets that they can suppress, and for them to be out of vision and in squad sight range. Do not expect bullet wizards to get lots of kills, but do expect them to make getting kills significantly easier for your other ground units. The other gunner build is a pretty stereotypical heat gunner. They take a saw, they take flush, heat ammo, ranger, rapid fire, and the last 2 perks are one of 2 choices. You can either go danger zone and mayhem again, or you can take resilience and extra con. The latter 2 work best if you play your gunner pretty aggressively with the intention of using rapid fire as often as possible, but I personally take danger zone and mayhem because I find the combo to be far too invaluable to pass up. This build takes rapid fire for pretty much a single reason. Heat gunners hate discs. A disc, after taking damage, closes up and gets a bunch of crit resistance. However, if you rapid fire them while they're open, the calculations are done at the same time, meaning they don't get the benefits of hardened on the second shot like they probably should. Gunners might suck as Overwatch units, but you know what they don't suck at? Being officers. I would highly recommend that you make every single gunner that you have into officers, and don't hand those billets out to any other class. Becoming an officer locks that soldier out of being psychic or turned into a mech, but this absolutely does not matter for gunners at all. Gunners don't need psi to be effective because their job is rarely hit things anyway, and their mech counterpart, Goliaths, suck so terribly bad that they're probably the worst class to mech, quite tragically. Originally, I was going to recommend 2 officer builds, but just don't overcomplicate things. Just on every single officer, you should take
Legio Pastra Nostra. Semper Vigilans.
So Shall You Fight, Band of Warriors, and So Others May Live. Other options are good, but just don't bother. So then, how do you properly play Trench Warfare XCOM? Well, it's important to note first off that it's pretty effective to plant your squad just about anywhere. This is especially helpful when you first drop in and are greeted with 2 floater pods off spawn and aren't completely screwed for once. You'll have a pretty static front line with 2 infantry, 2 gunners, a medic, and a sniper, but you still have 2 other class slots available. I usually take a scout, and it's a toss-up on the other slot most of the time, but I lean towards an assault. You want to use your scout and assault pretty aggressively to overextend and grab meld, activate the entire map, and then fall back to your base of fire and have the enemy walk directly into you. The enemy will pretty blindly just charge at you, sometimes to a worrying degree, where overwatches and follow-up shots can make easy work of them as they come out one by one. Additionally, the suppression from your gunners alongside smokes and an extra suppression from your medic means that absolutely nothing is going to be able to hit you, and your infantry can take 4 pretty high % chance shots per turn. Thanks to holo targeting, all of these shots, alongside 1 or more from your sniper, will be incredibly accurate and high damage, regardless of your opponent's cover. Once the enemy has gotten pretty thinned out or is generally weak, you can send in your scout to in the zone all of the survivors. Here's how I build infantry at the 3 main tiers of the game. I don't take battle rifles because they show up in the advanced half of a tier's research. This means that if you want to stay effective, you have to buy 2 normal rifles and then 2 battle rifles later on, which for the most part is an entirely unnecessary money sink. I don't bring them at ballistics because even though they're available, early game troops don't have the aim to make them a decent weapon choice. The items I take are far from unique, just an HP item and a scope. Later on, after you get tack rigging, you can really throw whatever the hell you feel like into it. HE, flashbang, drum mags, whatever. And here's how I build gunners. I always take a backup medikit on both of my gunners because I'm paranoid, and with heat gunners you can substitute the smoke grenade for an HP item, if you so desire. Reinforced armor is good on both, as the extra DR will be stacked with the DR that you get from cover, and bullet wizard's will to survive. If I had to guess, the 2 most boring classes are up next, engineers and medics. I might also save engineers and rocketeers for a last video. I don't know how the format's gonna work yet, okay? There's a red button if you want to find out, blah 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 blah.